Community policing is a philosophy that started many decades ago in the United Kingdom and the United States of America, but did not come to Nigeria until 2004 when it was formally and legally launched. This policing strategy has been incorporated into modern policing to help the police respond to democratic system of governance. In Nigeria, volunteers for traditional policing formed themselves into what was referred to as Yambanga or Ode Adugbo street vigilante group, which still exists in most parts of the country today. But the emergence of the state or the countries vis-a-vis the need to protect the state political elites during colonial rule necessitated the establishment of the police force. The police force is the most powerful constitutional organ among law enforcement agencies in Nigeria. The overall operational control of the Nigeria Police Force is vested in the President in accordance with the 1999 Constitution and the Police Act. Community policing has become an integral part of policing, not only to complement traditional policing, but rather as a proactive measure for the police personnel who are members themselves of the community they serve. Three strategies make community policing quite distinct from traditional policing: community partnership, organizational transformation, and problem solving. Looking at the prevailing insecurity in Nigeria, experts and stakeholders believe that adherence to the principles of community policing will help the Nigeria Police Force to overcome security challenges. Today on Policy Focus, we will review some of the challenges faced amongst the police force, the community, as well as those emanating from the government. How can these challenges be surmounted? How can efforts be synergized between the Nigeria Police Force and the Police Service Commission towards reorientation programs for the police and the community, fighting corruption, and to ensure that the rule of law is obeyed by the police, community, and political leaders? We intend to find answers to these questions and more. Thank you for joining us. I am Lydia Odije Ochi. Let's take our news update now. We will be back to our topic on community policing and security. Stay with us.
The National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies NIPSS Kuru has graduated 270 participants of the Strategic Leadership Ethics and Policymaking Course 7. The graduation, which was anchored by the Leadership and Professional Ethics Consult, LAPEC, had in attendance the representative of the Director General, Brigadier General CFJ Udaya Retired MNI, Secretary and Director of Administration, Professor Shola Adeyonju MNI, Head Public Affairs Department, members of directing staff, research fellows, participants, and other staff of the Institute. While giving a course brief, Professor Adeyonju MNI stated that the National Institute is known for interaction, reflection, training, and exchange of ideas.
I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility because the level of cooperation, the level of participation during interaction, and the comportment have been very, very impressive. And I want to say, please, sleep 7. Try to keep this up. Try to continue with this as you interact with yourselves in the nearest future. We thank you very much for that support.
Given a brief on their experience, some of the participants had this to say.
It has been a very wonderful experience here, and we have a lot of take-homes. I'll just mention one because of the time. From this training, it has been established that leadership is a collective responsibility. Now, one problem we're facing in this country is that citizens detach themselves from the government. And that's why you hear Babangida's government, Abacha's government, Buhari's government. Now what we hear now is Tinubu's government. That means it is not your government.
What I know about NIPSS is that this is a place where highly influential leaders, mostly from the public sector, are trained on leadership and ethics and other interrelated matters. So when my letter of invitation came, I felt highly elated that I've been given that very rare privilege to visit the institute. In fact, as a matter of fact, although I've spent about a week here, I'm still surprised that I am the one attending the institute. So I feel extremely happy.
I attended quite a number of trainings in Nigeria and abroad, but mainly because I'm in the academic cycle, most of the trainings are around people that are from the academic environment, many of them. But here I came and I mixed with quite a number of very interesting people. I can say that this one is really very interesting because there is a mix of people that I have met from various sectors of the economy of Nigeria. And I think this relationship, this network we have built is going to be there, I think, forever.
The class president presented a communique on ethical dimension of policies and their implementation.
The program aimed to equip leaders with the skills and knowledge essential for informed decision-making, ethical frameworks, and sound policy development. Participants comprising academics, administrators, traditional leaders, CEOs of industries, and civil society organizations engaged in a week-long intensive course. Key highlights include leadership imperative in challenging context. Dr. Ezekiel Gomos, a former secretary of the Plateau State Government from Jos Business School, delivered a thought-provoking presentation on the ethical dimension of public policy makers and implementers. A stimulating breakout session allowed participants to dissect a case study related to the leadership imperative in challenging context.
Certificates were presented on behalf of the DG by Brigadier General Udaya Retired MNI, Secretary and Director of Administration.
Mr. Abu Mama, Engineer Abu Mama, Asuli.
Speaking on the impact of the course, some of the participants had this to say.
It was all shades of amazing. Coming to Jos the first time, coming to NIPSS, I've heard so much about NIPSS. And then coming here, the teachings, the lectures, it is something I'm taking back to my organization.
As a leader, I want to be sure I'm conforming with the best practices, so that I won't be making horrible mistakes interacting with my co-workers, as I have learned, not my subordinates anymore.
Chana Ejoga reporting for NIPSS Policy TV.
Welcome back. With the many challenges and constraints facing the Nigeria police force, which have adversely affected police image and police-community relations, the need to reconnect the police with the people they serve necessitated the introduction of community policing strategy as a cardinal initiative in the evolving agenda of police reforms since the transition to democracy. Community policing involves collaboration between police and community members characterized by problem-solving partnerships to enhance public safety. Our guest today is a prominent Nigerian whose life revolves around the police, a former Inspector General of Police and currently Chairman of the Police Service Commission. Some people describe him as the ABU Zaria Radical Cop. Let me welcome Dr. Solomon Arase. Thank you for being our guest despite your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now let's begin with you sharing your experience as former IGP and now as chairman of the Police Service Commission. What is the difference between being in charge of both agencies?
Well, it's been challenging, as it were. As a trained cop for 35 years and getting to the peak of my career, it was easy for me to identify what are the critical issues, I had to deal with, as an Inspector General of Police. I had to identify those items and try and find solutions to them. One of them that, kept on resonating, along the line was issue of corruption and the lack of public trust between the Nigerian police force and the general public. So I said, okay, how am I going to deal with the issue of corruption? First and foremost, where do corruption actually take place? Along the highways, where you have commuters, coming in contact with police officers at the roadblock. I said, okay, can I dispense with roadblocks? I decided to cancel them. I replaced them with, I had to replace them with safer highways to say that, as a patrol system, those ones would give members of the public the psychological reassurance that, the space is secure for people to go about their business. And I met with the private, some of the private sector people. I said, look, if I'm going to post men to stay, to patrol for 8 hours, 10 hours, they need dry packs. So I met with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. They were very, very excited. They said, yeah, we'll give you dry packs. So they gave us dry packs. So you see, I now had the moral courage to say, I have done this and this for you. If you step out of, the line, then I will now have, the moral attitude to deal with you. And it works. Issues of accidental discharge, on roadblocks, everything, they were no longer there. The welfare of the men were more paramount, in my strategic plan for the police force. I was putting in place structures that will encourage them to be of good conduct. So that one is that these are uniform men. You were asking me about comparative studies about. Now the Police Service Commission is mostly populated by civilian staff. That is a different ballgame. When in the police force, you are used to giving orders and it is obeyed. They have their own unions. They will tell you, oh no, issues have to be negotiated, issues have to be dealt with. So it's a different approach. Most of them have not been trained for the past 5-10 years. And now we are now thinking about we're securing training program for them in NIPSS, at the Defense College, at the Institute of Security Studies, so that even when they are now thinking at a strategic level, they are able to appreciate what are issues of national security. If you start, fighting with the police force and, which you are supposed to oversight, what implications does that have, in the psychic of the Nigerians who you are supposed to police?
Okay, that was very interesting. Now, you succeeded in creating cordial working relationship between the commission and the police force. How did you achieve that feat?
I had the privilege of being a principal staff officer to 3 inspectors general of police in this country. The issues that these people were quarreling with, they were the same issues we were dealing with when I was a principal staff officer to 3 IGs and when I became an IG. So there is nothing that, that people cannot sit down on a table and deliberate on and try to solve. So I just believe that, in the final analysis, when you are talking about the interests of the commission, when you're talking about the interests of the police, the most paramount thing you should think about is how does this affect national security? So I think that has been my approach.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, sometime in the past, you mentioned building a police force that will be attractive once again. In what ways?
In various ways. You see, we inherited a police force that was brought in by the colonial masters. The establishment of the police force by colonial masters was to oppress, the indigents, exploit their resources, intimidate them, and all those type of a thing. The missing link when we got independence was that we did that has a social content. Social content, a police force that is helpful to members of the public when they are in need, a police force that is, sympathetic towards the people there. All of us, before you became a police officer, you were a civilian. And when you retire, you are going to move back into the civil society. So I'm beginning to look at a police force that has a healthy respect for the rights of the people who they police. Any police system that does not have respect for the rights of the people who they police can never be a good police force. So that is exactly what we are trying to build. Build a responsible police force. Build a police force that is respectable, that when you see them, they elicit that self-confidence. You want to be a policeman. You are well turned out. Your communication skills are good. You don't see a member of the public speak Queen's English and you feel offended. That he's trying to intimidate you. Just have that self-confidence that, we can always interact with members of the public. That is the type of police force I want to see. A police force that, and that will come with recruitment. The better, if you're able to put a system in place where you bring in the best, you recruit the best based on, merits, based on, some, judgments that you think are, you can relate with, then, the others are just okay. You just train them to say these are the things that you expect them to do. That is the type of police force I want to see. And that is the one I think I can build.
That's great. Dr. Arase, now let's talk about those reforms that you have brought to the Police Service Commission since you came on board. What are those reforms?
What am I supposed to have done? I was paid to come and have a turnaround in the commission. And but the first thing I actually thought about when I came in, was to make sure that their corporate headquarters in Jabi, which they've been building for the past 12 years, that I'm able to get it done with, and get the staff into a respectable accommodation. We've been able to now get a slot for NIPSS. Two of my officers just left NIPSS about 2 weeks ago. I'm going to get another one in there by February. We have gotten one into the Defense College. I'm putting another one at the Institute of Security Studies. So, and we have some of this foreign training that I want to attach them to. You see, the more educated they are, the more mentally mobile they are, how the fertile minds they have will resonate, in the policies that they are supposed to do. I want to train them. I want to touch them in such a way that, in such profound way that, they will not continue to see their career paths littered with knowledge and skills.
That's great. And I hope that those that have received this capacity building will pass it on to the ones behind them. Now, let's talk about policies now. Is there a policy guideline by the Commission towards repositioning the police force to confront the myriad of security challenges confronting our country?
Oh, absolutely, yes. If you want to talk about the social disorder in our system, insecurity in Nigeria can be geolocated. In the Northeast, you're talking about issues of terrorism. In the Northwest, you are talking about issues of kidnapping, herdsmen, this thing. The North Central, the same thing. You are going to the South, you are talking about, this. If you go to the Southeast, you are talking about identity crisis. If you go to the South, you are talking about issues of kidnapping. So you see, what I think we are trying to do is to see how we can develop capacity. Crime has become scientific. Crime has become dynamic. It's not static. So you discover that the people who are supposed to deal with these issues, they are people who are supposed to also be knowledgeable. They must be able to have strategies, put in place to deal with them. What are the strategies that we are thinking of bringing in? Intelligence-led policing, community-based, interventions, result-oriented policing strategies, zero tolerance policing strategies. You see, so sometimes you see that it's an admix of all the strategies that you can bring to deal with these issues. But the most important is for you to be able to key into the local communities where you are operating. So what we are trying to tell them is that, look, every crime, policing is local. Sometimes, you can relate with crimes depending on where they come from. And if you are able to key into the natives, before we got independence, where our communities not policed, they were policed. How were they policed? They were policed by local initiative. You see, now we've been able, we've virtually driven away our local resource, the natives, the people who used to help us. We've driven them away because of issues, the way we go about policing our system. What we're trying to do now is to win the hearts and minds of these people back. Tell them that we are here because, you people, you are there. There must be that synergy. There must be that, training, capacity building to identify the types of crimes that are prevalent in. Look at what used to happen in Jos. There was a time when, if you on a Friday during the Juma service, where the Christians they go and protect the mosque, whereas the Muslims too on a Sunday they also do the same thing. You see, that is community-based, system of, policing in a place. That is exactly what we are trying to teach most of our men, that you must be able, wherever you work, the social-cultural, environment you work should be able to inform the way that you deploy your men material, in dealing with issues of internal security. So we are building up, and we are beginning to build up protocols too. How do you go about these issues? They are not issues that you can just say, oh, now so we did one in those days, There must be protocol.
In fact, Dr. Arase, you just answered my next question on community policing. I know way back,
Yes.
we've always known you are big on community policing, so I'm not surprised that you have said this to us today. Now, let's talk about, the next question is talking about how what has been done to stop pre-trial detention in the country.
You see, when I was in charge of the intelligence branch of the Nigerian Police Force, one thing I tried to develop was to say that when a crime has been committed, instead of you rushing to arrest the person and keep them in custody, and you go first before inviting the person. If you have evidence, for instance, I give you a very simple example. Issues of maybe bank fraud. When you commit a bank fraud, those things that you need to prove to the person who you suspect, they are the instruments, that was used in committing the fraud. These are things that are available. They are documentary evidence that you can put together. Supposed to assess them. So the idea is that it is more beneficial for you to be able to get evidence before you start inviting somebody to the station. Why do you have to invite somebody to the station and you keep him behind the counter? Then you say you are going to start looking for evidence, or you take statement, then you say you go and look for somebody to. No, that is no longer acceptable in contemporary investigations. It's no longer acceptable. So we have to discourage it. This is something we have to discourage. People should not be kept in custody beyond the constitutionally agreed period for no reason, except there are, some cases that are, serious cases, like maybe even in murder cases, in most countries outside the world, in most jurisdictions, a murder case can be investigated for close to 1 to 2 years. the end, they will be able to piece together, evidence that will arrest the person. There was a murder case that took about 5 years for the Metropolitan Police to arrest the culprits. And how did they do that? The rug, the sample of the rug that was always identified with the people, the women, he usually abuses and kills. They continue to find that there was a particular type of, samples they were picking up. And these people, they kept at it. Then there was also a perfume that always, so they now looked for who was the person a very expensive perfume. They were looking for who are the this perfume. Where are they produced? This took them about 5 years until they were able to arrest the man. And once they arrest you with evidential proof, the case is as good as done. So you don't waste time in pre-trial detention. All those trial within trial. They say, oh, it was false confession. It was no, the evidence are already there.
Should the police handle civil matters? No.
Absolutely no. They are not trained to handle civil matters. That is the duty of the lawyers. You see, but in this country, I am a lawyer, but sometimes I quarrel with some of my colleagues. We try to find the shortcuts, into getting the police involved in areas where they are not competent. If you bring in a constable to come and investigate a case of that is civil, what are you doing? You are giving the case to somebody who is not competent to do that. The best forum you should do that is the law courts. And the worst part of it, that is very, very dangerous. Get a lawyer and say, write a petition and say that other person is a cultist. He has firearms. So they criminalize it. And the police, instead of looking at the issues that they are supposed to deal with, they now, they now vie away and start looking for firearms that is non-existent. And maybe this thing is just a land matter. So I keep telling my colleagues, I don't have the competence to deal with such matters. So I think it is something we should discourage to defend them instead of bringing in the police to, in areas where they are not competent to do that. Even sometimes in matrimonial disputes.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you indeed. We're grateful.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you. It was nice, talking to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful day. We've been talking with the former Inspector General of Police and currently Chairman of the Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase. Thank you for watching. The program continues.
So the government through the police must increase their internal security and surveillance. The government must learn to prosecute, because without prosecution, I think these cases of theft, kidnapping, and pickpocketing is going to continue. We have this case in Plateau State for some times, but I think the case have now reduced drastically, especially this issue of cultism. You can just see youth from different community with guns shooting themselves that one belongs to this particular cult and one belongs to this particular cult. This is even the laxity of our parents, because once there's a failed system, once our parents are failing in even training our young ones, this is where this issue of cultism arises. But if you train your child well, he know where he started from, he know where he's going, he can never contemplate joining bad gangs. The police must prosecute without any fear or favor, without even looking at the face of anybody. You understand, ba? This is the best thing to go.
The issue of security actually is a very, very big problem. And security is not even, we can spend the whole day talking about security. Insecurity has eaten deep into our country. In fact, insecurity has caused has caused drastic drop in our agricultural produce production. People can no longer go to their farms to farm, and the rate of crime in this country, one, unemployment cause it. There is high rate of unemployment in this country. Banditry, people are moving around, killing people anywhere, so people cannot produce crops, cannot produce food in their crops in their farms. Our borders are very porous. We have a very, very large border, and our security personnel are not enough.
And actually, you see, the current realities will only heighten, they will only be increasing. But I'm suggesting, as an individual, let the government empower the youths. Let the youth be engaged. If the youth are actively engaged in any of the policy of the government, if they will be empowered with a skill to engage them to be busy, I think actually the issue of insecurity will be tackled.
As a Nigerian, I think I have a duty to my country. And the duty I have to my country, that's if you recite the national anthem, is all stated there. So I pledge to Nigeria, my country, like I said, to be faithful, loyal, and honest. So if there's anything that is going on in my community, I think I need to be faithful, I need to be loyal, I need to be honest, I need to disclose to the relevant authorities what is happening. If my neighbor is the cause of any arrest, I should be honest enough to tell the government that this is the person that is causing trouble. Not minding whether he's my tribe, not minding whether he's of the same religion with me, not minding whether he has the same color of skin with me, not minding any political affiliation or any other thing.
My contribution, I think, as a person to internal security is, whenever I see something, I say it out. How to even improve internal security personally, on personal basis, is whenever crime is perpetrated, we as citizens, we must have to kick against it. We must have to say no to it. We have to stand against it. We have to make our minds positive. We have to remain resolute in terms of fighting against crime. And that is the best way to do it. And then the security should please stand to their responsibilities, that whenever crime is reported to them, they have to swift into action in order to curtail the crime.
Well, actually, you see, the issue of corruption has actually eaten deep into the Nigerian system. So I think all the security agencies too have to look inward, and take corrections where necessary.
Like, for example, in the whole Nigeria now, the total number of police we have is not even up to 400,000. They are about 360,000 plus. Compare the ratio of the people to the ratio of the Nigerian policemen, and likewise the military, likewise the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and all these paramilitary agencies. Actually, we are under security personnel in this country. So for the federal government if federal government are serious about tackling insecurity in this country, one, they must have to recruit security personnel, because we are under police, we are under military, we are under everything.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
The National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies NIPSS Kuru has concluded its 4-day intensive training for participants of Strategic Leadership course on sustainable communities and cities. The event, which took place at the Institute, had in attendance the Director General NIPSS, Professor Ayo Omotayo, the Secretary and Director of Administration, Brigadier General CFJ Udaya Retired MNI, the Director of Studies, Professor Fulmi Paramalam, MNI, Professor Shola Adeonju, MNI, Head Public Affairs Department, members of directing staff, research fellows, heads of departments, participants, and other staff of the Institute. While giving a brief on their experience as participants, Dr. Mrs. Inyingi Brown said the lecture series from the training was an opportunity for reassessing, relearning, and being flexible in her way of thinking.
We have learned a lot. We are going to change the way we do things.
from what we have learned here. We've spent some time here learning, and what we thought we knew previously, we've been challenged to think again and to reassess our fixed notions and to be flexible in our thinking.
A class communique on the principles of sustainable development goals and evolution of the environment was presented by Professor Charles Anosike, the class president.
We acknowledge the challenges of the effects of climate change and the need to mainstream climate action to ensure sustainable development. Today, the persistent urban challenges such as climate change, crime, poverty, disease, and the exhaustion of natural resources demand a new way of thinking and public policy formulation. This course imparted a great deal of knowledge to us to be strategic leaders through impactful case study-based lectures and breakthrough sessions.
Certificates of merits were presented by the DG to the participants. The DG, in his remark, congratulated the participants on the successful completion of the course. He added that Nigeria is a multi-diverse society and must therefore work communally towards having a better society.
And we always want to stretch your imagination by asking you to write your observations or make comments on what you have seen. The Institute continues to gather comments and observations, and at the right time we will publish those comments and observations, and we therefore all of us in Nigeria to see.
While giving the vote of thanks, Chief Bayo Ajijola appreciated the management of NIPSS for accepting the collaboration, which is aligned with SDG 11 on development of communities and cities.
NIPSS for accepting our collaboration proposal on this vital cause to the development of our nation and well-being of the citizens of our cities and communities. CFA Studies, that is Conference for African Studies, started interaction with NIPSS since 2001.
Some of the participants shared how they intend to put into practice what they have learned in the discharge of their duties.
There is nothing more that I want than to understand the vividness of how to engage the communities and do community development in a proper way. I appreciate this institute to think about this, to have brought up a course like this. Sustainable cities is what we need in this jet age. We need our cities to be sustainable, but not just the cities, also the communities.
Honestly speaking, it was so loaded, so very loaded, in the sense that I learned a lot. There are things that I actually thought, or then I thought that I had or I had knowledge of. Coming here, I have gotten a different perspective, different understanding and views, understanding about our cities, the communities.
The program aims to impact positively on national development.
It's new, it's fresh, it's all about policies and strategies. Watch out for NIPSS Policy TV programs on NTA News 24. Tune in on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, Star Times Channels 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Miss this and miss out on policies that will affect you and our country. Join us.
Thank you for joining us on this segment. Today we have a very special guest. He is a prominent Nigerian that really does not need any introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. He's a Nigerian businessman. He is the co-founder and former Group Executive Director, Sahara Group, an energy conglomerate with operations spanning the entire energy chain in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. He was a key member of Partnering Against Corruption Initiative, PASI, United Nations as pioneer member of the advisory board of the Private Sector Advisory Group Fund, the African Philanthropy Forum, amongst many others. Join me as I welcome Mr. Tony Patrick Cole, MNI. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, you were here as a participant. What was your experience like?
I think it was, first and foremost, one of the best experiences that I've had educationally. I'd come into this environment, first having gone into politics, but also interacting for the very first time in close quarters with people outside of the industry with which I had set up a business and come to know. And that cross-section of meeting public servants, the military officers, the police force, the immigration, the paramilitary, was just such a beautiful experience. And coming to see Nigeria from a much wider version, no regrets.
And how long ago was that?
This was Sec 43, so this was 3 years. We're now in 45, so this will be 3 years back.
Now, how has the experience imparted on your person and your career?
So first and foremost, I think the network of MNIs that are out there who give support, who give encouragement, who you can reach out to help channel new thoughts, especially when you're thinking of what next to do, how to move forward. That network is always there. And that network, you make the best out of it. So I'm very grateful for the network of past alumni. I remember going to see President Babangida, General Babangida, as soon as I graduated. And one of the first things he did once he saw the MNI badge, he was the Sec 1. He said, "This is one of the best things that you have done." And it gave me the full understanding as to how deep this network is. I saw also General Obasanjo, who happened to be the founder of NIPSS, the initiator, and all of that. And again, he was very encouraging about the fact that I did that. What I did not know was back then, when I came into NIPSS, was that my father was also part of the originating set that thought it through. So Obasanjo had the idea and gave it to my father, who was a civil servant at cabinet office at the time. And they were the foundational members who thought through the whole idea of how NIPSS should work. So I think it was full circle for me coming back to see people and meet people who originated it, and I now became a process of it, even without knowing that they were the ones that started it. That for me was good.
Oh, wonderful. Now, sir, what is your philosophy of life?
That's interesting. You must be able to make a difference. So for me, every human being is created and given a talent and a gift that is unique to them. And that gift, once it's translated, must make a difference to the people that you meet. And so when I think about myself and what gift I have been given, it is to help people discover themselves, who they really are, and what purpose they are here to achieve. And then secondly, within the context of the nation and all of that, I find myself always to be in the forefront of pioneering things that people assume to be impossible, difficult. Then I find myself going in there. In business, that's what we did. We went into a sector that people thought was not for Nigerians, nobody had done it, and all of that. And went in there, pioneered it, broke it open, and today many Nigerians do the business that we were doing.
Now, how would you react to the narrative that the ANI Association is an elitist group?
I don't know. So first and foremost, anything that has a few number of people in a large crowd would always be seen as elitist, whether you like it or not. The entire number of ANI members is not up to 3,000 in the
whole nation. So you have a small group of people who are in the civil service, who are in the military, who are in the public sector, who are in politics, who are in business. And so people will naturally say that this is elitist. But no, what I would see is that somewhere, somehow, by configuration, we have a group of people that have been called to serve this nation, and the best should be made of them. It's not about elitism. It's about, have you trained people who can now deliver and bring Nigeria to a point where everyone is proud of? I have no regrets about that. And I think we should use ANI and MNI members a lot more in Nigeria.
It's okay. Who is your mentor and why?
That's a wide question for me, because mentors come in different segments depending on what you're doing and how you want to do it. So I have religious mentors, business mentors, political mentors, spiritual mentors, and so on and so forth. And so it's wide and it's different. Where I come from, when it comes to the spiritual mentors, I would put Pastor Deboye, who is my spiritual father, as one. And he's a mentor that I hold on to. I've learned a lot from him in terms of humility and just the outlook of being able to think bigger, wider, greater than most others would think. And so you see what he has been able to do in that scale. And you know that this is somebody who thinks way, way, way ahead. I like legacy things. I like thinking far ahead. And so from that perspective, that is great. When it comes to, which other one? When it comes to business, let me see. No, when it comes to politics, one of the persons whose political activism has helped me grow over time has been what Nelson Mandela has been able to do. How do you stay focused on a long-term goal, regardless of all the distractions, regardless of all the naysayers, people who tell you it's impossible, it cannot be done, and all of that. But just keep your eyes focused that this is where you're going. No matter how long it takes, you will get there. That from Nelson Mandela, for me, critical. So my political journey is based on, I know where we're going. And how long it's going to take there can be 20 years, it may be longer, but what we want to change cannot be done overnight. And so it requires resilience, tenacity, it requires just a deep belief in what is right. And regardless of what happens today, just stay on it. So those are the kind of mentors that I have. People anybody who can think long-term through the challenges that you have and break odds that nobody believes possible. Those are the kind of people that I like to follow.
Now, finally, what would you recommend to the National Institute to make it better?
Every time I come to NIPSS, I see that, to the Institute especially, I see that there are things that have been improved. The politics is still there. There's still a lot of politics that I don't agree with, but that's politics. That's life. Life is full of all sorts of issues. But what will make NIPSS better? I'll give you 3 things. Number 1, selection criteria coming into NIPSS. You have to take a look at it. Don't allow politics ruin how you select participants, directing staff, and all of that. Understand that this is a premium place. It's a place for the best minds to come. It's a place for people who understand networking, who can carry their idea and ideology further. So that is critical. Drive that. Number 2, you, as a policy and strategic study group, you have to be known across the world as a place where intellectual excellence is brought through. I've always looked at it and I've said that we have, as NIPSS, one of those unique opportunities to be a reference point across board. Now, there are 2 dangers. There's a positive and a danger with that. The danger of it is because it's strategic, people are afraid that if you put out what you are doing here, then it releases national security on the outside. So there's one. But however, that notwithstanding, there's so much learning that you can get from cross-pollination, from people outside coming in and taking a look and growing. So you have to find and strike a balance. If we don't do that, we would only be improving ourselves within our own capacity and our own limited knowledge. I don't think that's right. So as an institution, what I want to see NIPSS down the line is that when they talk about strategic institutions globally, then NIPSS should be one. If they're talking about it, if we start in Africa, we say here in Nigeria that is premium, no problem. Well, when we look at it in Africa and we rank it, where do we rank? And I did that when I was coming here, and I found that we were not ranked. And the reason why is that we don't push out our papers, we don't publicize what we want and all of that, and I don't think that's right. So for example, my research project here, when I shared it here with the directorate here, by the time they finished, all of them said, make sure that this is published. That for them, I don't know what I did, but for them it was good enough to be a published work. And so we started working on that. My university in Oxford, where I was doing a program about the same time, and I shared it with my professor after I'd finished. I said, please take a look at this, proofread it, and all. And she came back and said, this must be published. Now, those are the kind of things that we must inculcate within participants that are here. That your research project is not just a project, it's not something to just go and sit on a shelf. It is critical that it must be published and go out there, and people see it either as an academic work or something that they can refer to. And you have 10 months here, and you don't want you don't want to be remembered for doing something different. No, it's not right. So we have resource, we have people. If you ask me, NIPSS has to enter into that space where people refer to the research work that we do here for setting policy in Africa if we want to start, in West Africa if we want to be smaller, Africa if we want to be slightly bigger, or globally if you really, really want to take it forward. I think we can do that.
Thank you so much for being our guest. We know you have a busy schedule, but you still found time to talk with us. We really appreciate it.
God bless.
Well, that's it from here. The program continues. Thank you for staying.
Keep watching.
Keep watching. Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
The main reasons for adopting community policing approach, according to our findings, is to build a police organization that is transparent, fair, neutral, accountable, and responsive to public perceptions and expectations, while at the same time develop other positive and more effective strategies beyond the traditional method of policing, which is exclusively based on law enforcement and tends to be reactive. There are also latent factors that lead to the emergence of community policing. Some experts argue that community policing emerged in response to unintended consequences of modernizing policing profession. First, technology, such as the police radio and patrol vehicles, changed the relationships between the police and the community. Previously, officers developed personal relationships with the community and needed the community to be willing to share information. Secondly, the police applied scientific management to policing, which created the perception police were responsible for keeping the community safe. Previously, the community understood that ultimately the community is responsible for reaffirming the social norms that promote public safety. That's our package today. Remember, security is everybody's business. See you next time. I am Lydia Odidiochi. Thank you for watching.